get the latest right now from man who's been all over it from The Athletic, Evan Drellich, joining us back here on the show. How are you, sir?
Rich, we made it.
Did we, though? Did we? Have we? We're sure?
Well, the next step here, and this could happen likely today, is they have to finalize the schedule. The union has to basically sign off on that, and I'm told that that is likely an occurrence today. So they are making still steady progress. And then there's this interesting possibility that we could still maybe end up with an expanded postseason if the league made an offer to the union that the union liked. And there's no indication that that's happened yet, but that possibility still does exist.
Well, I want to put a pin in that because that takes us a little bit afield of the issue that the season's going to start. What to make of all the reports that we're going to hear more and more of? We heard it already about the Texas Rangers. We heard it about the Philadelphia Phillies, the Colorado Rockies having 3 players, including our friend Charlie Blackmon, testing positive for coronavirus. The Blue Jays coming in from Canada have tested for coronavirus. I'm assuming all 30 teams are going to have some member of their crew that's going to be facilitating these games, or the players themselves testing positive for coronavirus. How does the league handle all this stuff?
Well, this is why they went from a 67-page document outlining the protocols for this season to a 101-page document. And the question of what do they do if they have a mass outbreak on a given team, there really isn't a single answer. In every situation here, they're going to have replacements available. And so you're hoping that if guys do come down with it, and they will, as you're rightly pointing out, there's no way when you have this many people, it's just a numbers game, that you're not going to have people who get COVID-19. You have to have alternatives lined up. And the question of, well, what do you do if a whole team gets it? That's still a good question. They are not intending to shut down unless they have to. But that worst-case scenario, I think, still looms in the back of people's minds.
Well, because it's not just, look, the players, we haven't heard about any hospitalizations or any serious illness, but there are, remember, and every league's going to have to deal with this. The NBA has, Greg Popovich is a 70-year-old man. There are so many members of coaching staffs who are beyond vulnerable that if coronavirus is there and they catch it, this is a whole different story. And the question is anybody opting out? Are you hearing any of that? When does this conversation take place, Evan?
In a way, it's already taking place. Every team doctor has to put together a list in the organization, not just players, of people who are considered high risk. And nobody is going to be forced to be out there. The problem is, from an employee standpoint, the players are covered by the union. Everyone else, if they choose not to go, they're basically at the mercy of the club as to whether they are paid. And that's going to likely be a team-by-team and maybe even simply case-by-case decision, whether a team is feeling generous about a guy's position. But this is why they've developed these different protocols. If you're high risk, you have a certain set of testing procedures. If you're not high risk, they've tried being the key word, to map all this out. But it's got to be a living, breathing document. There's no way to really preemptively figure all this out.
Evan Drellich of The Athletic here on the Rich Eisen Show. Okay, so have the protocols been agreed to? Is that all set?
Yes, they've reached an agreement on this 101-page protocols. They've got to still set the schedule officially, as I said, but that was the end game a couple days ago here. Once the league announced we're going to do this 60-game season, the thing that took about basically a day at that point was getting the health protocols finalized, and they had been close on that for some time. It didn't take a massive amount of heavy lifting because they had already sent revisions back, the union had, to the league. But, yeah, the health protocols are agreed to, and there's going to be this joint committee between the league and the union where if there are any disputes, for example, whether a guy is indeed classified as high risk, they have a way to sort that stuff out already devised internally.
So let's get into whether players are going to maybe not show up because of the manner in which this was implemented. Is there any issue with that? Or is the bad blood that was boiling over, is that finally now at a simmer, or have we turned the heat off on that?
Oh, no, the bad blood is absolutely still going to be there, but it's going to come down really to questions of money, because if you are not high risk and you sit out, you're at the mercy of the club. And the likelihood that a club is going to say, yeah, even though you're not high risk, we're going to pay you, is very small. The question is guys who live with somebody who's high risk. So a player who has a pregnant wife or a young child, maybe a young child who's immunocompromised, and they choose to sit out. The union pushed very hard to have it in the agreement, in the health protocols, that those people could sit out and still receive service time or even pay. They didn't get that in the agreement. So if you're somebody who's living with someone high risk and you are not yourself high risk, you have a choice to make. And there's some hope that teams will be accommodating. There's some wiggle room, too. MLB has a paternity list. MLB has a restricted list where guys could go. So there's some flexibility there, but there's no guarantee for those people. So if anybody's on a bubble, I would think it's them. It's not the high-risk individuals, because they're kind of taken care of. It's those who live with somebody who's high risk if they are not themselves high risk.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.